All right, welcome back to part two of our series with the one and only Henning. In the last episode, we left off right before we started to talk about our trek to Mount Pratt. So lace up them hiking boots and get ready for more hiking adventures with Henning. His recommendations for a must have piece of gear for any new hiker and backpacker. And of course, we can't end the episode without some safety advice from him. So let's get ready and do this. All right, so the next big adventure was going out to Mount Pratt. So I had an attempt before, and we got out to the saddle. Right when you go off trail, there's that little cabin. We passed the cabin, and then we kind of climb up to that saddle. We got there, and I was turned around on the map, so I didn't realize to the left. You just go up to to that ridge and just walk the ridge to Pratt. I was looking straight ahead, and that's that big cliff. Like you're looking at this cliff, and like there's no way that you would be able to climb that. So, and it was getting late, so we turned back. And so when we did it, we got it up to that part. So we had, you're hiking up Bear Canyon, which is probably the hardest elevation gain there is in the park. And I just remember getting up to that part. We were fine. Everybody's good. Sam's brother Max, he like slayed it. He paid for it later. But then we start hiking. We get up to that saddle, and I remember looking at you, and I'm going, "Yeah, look, how are we going to do this?" And you're like, "Why are you looking that way? It's up here." And I'm like, "What?" And you showed me the map, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And now that I look back, it was probably a blessing in the skies that I didn't read the map, because we probably would have went for it. The person I was with wouldn't have made it, and it was already getting dark, and we didn't have like warming layers and all this stuff. So it was probably a blessing in the skies that I got turned around on the map. But yeah, so we hiked up. That was probably, for me at that moment, one of the coolest hikes, because it was like my first experience to just totally walk a ridge line. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, and we made it, and actually we we I think we made it in pretty good time too, because that's one of the farthest hikes that you can do in Pine Springs. Like, getting out to Pratt, it was probably about a 14 or 15 mile day.
Yeah, going with I think we did it way faster than that though, because like you said, we had Max, and he ended up just basically running out front the whole time, and he made insane time. So we just kind of followed slowly. Yeah, but getting out there, that was a really really fun hike. I really like that ridge line.
Yeah.
The view is pretty exceptional over there. I think that might be my favorite hike in the park. But again, that's another one where you kind of want to know what you're doing, because you can definitely get lost. It's a little confusing, perhaps, especially when you start going over the hills up and down in order to get there. Also, another place you need the gaiters, because holy crap, like the biggest thing that sticks out in my mind, honestly, besides how much I enjoyed the views, was how much I was getting stabbed in the shins by everything.
Yeah.
And I just got so frustrated. I remember going around this giant, I can't remember what they are. They're like they're not sticker bushes, but they're just like really hard bushes.
No.
And I remember I saw a big patch of them, and I went way out of the way. And I think it might have been Max. He was like, "Why are you going all the way over there?" I didn't say it, but I was like, that's because I'm sick and tired of those things
And
stabbing.
some of this stuff is low where you don't really see until you step down because the grass is covering it, and then it just trashes your ankles.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's desert, so you got plenty of cactuses to kick, um, cacti to kick.
Hmm. All right, then the next thing that I got in trouble for being with you was the El Capitan Trail to Shumard campsite.
Mm.
So this was probably, I don't want to say the most dangerous hike, but if you think about it, like doing the quad, like you're going to see that you're going to get cliffed out. You're going to see, you're never going to lose where your feet are stepping. But man, this El Capitan Trail, when you get to the backside of basically the quad, you're on the backside of it. You're going up and down in these canyons, and it's so overgrown. There's exposure 3, 4, 500 feet, and you can't even see where your feet are being placed. And so I think for this trail, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just kind of a flat trail. I wasn't paying attention to the kind of the last few miles of it, but you're hiking from Pine Springs on the El Capitan Trail. You hike around El Capitan, and then you hit the backside, and you're going up and down the canyons. And so I knew it was going to be about 9 miles. We had a late start, and that didn't worry me, but I was getting worried. Like it was a long hike, and the hike was so miserable that when we finally got to the campsite at dark, we were talking that tomorrow let's just hike the 10 miles to get to the highway, and we'll just try to hitchhike back to the campsite. So what was your thoughts on that one? That type 2 fun.
Yeah, that was a really cool hike. Way harder than I anticipated. Um, I probably don't do enough due diligence in looking at the what the
That
hike
hike
is going to
sucked.
be. Yeah. Um, I actually really liked it. Just wish I'd known more what I was getting into. I
It's
have
my
a lot.
favorite trail in the park. I love that trail. I hate it though.
Yeah, it was really cool. It starts out really mellow, and then all of a sudden the trail kind of just disappears. And you can follow the cairns, um
Yeah, we
but
got
yeah,
lost twice. Where we got kind of cliffed out where we couldn't go. And we're like, okay, where's the trail at? And so we had to backtrack. That's when my mind started like going like, man, what are we doing out here?
I I never got too I never felt too
Frazzled.
no, it was that part. So there was a couple parts. It goes over like just some rock fall, a lot of rock fall. Been out there a long time, washed out. So it's all just like bleached bleached rocks. Looks it all looks the same, and then you can't really tell what's a trail and what's not. So that part's a little interesting, and it comes all of a sudden, like because
No.
the start of the trail is very doable. Like you think the whole thing's going to be super easy, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is like really hard to tell where the trail is. It was still fun. It was kind of had some a little bit of exposure, but not really, but also kind of because there was like some spots you would walk by that were like man, if you if you fell off the trail right here, you'd be having a really bad day.
Yeah, it's some of the times you're not even in those parts. You can't even see where you're stepping because it's so overgrown. Like that's what was the exposure didn't bother me. Just not being able to see where I'm putting my feet with the exposure. I was like, oh man, this is
Yeah, that was a yeah, you kind of get after a while it goes through these weird twists and turns, and then the trail just was gone. Like
yeah.
we started following something. And it was
Yeah,
a
and
wash. And I was like, man, I feel like this is just a wash. And
it
then
was.
we get down and it's like, yeah, that was just a wash. And it like goes to a cliff pretty quick. So we walk back up, and that's the second time we kind of got lost. And
And when we walked back up, that's when I was like I really felt like, what in the heck are we doing? Like, I
I,
just want to get to the campsite.
yeah, I've done a lot enough land nav to know like that happens a lot, especially
Yeah.
when you're like, yeah, when you've never been somewhere before and you're just trying to go off like maps and stuff. It's a fuzzy practice. Like, unless you're really really good, you're not gonna you're gonna end up trying stuff out, and then just you have to keep that. You always want to keep a kind of like a path back in your mind to
Yeah.
where you came from, unless you're like John was talking about in that one episode, like you commit,
Yeah.
you have no path back, and that you have to accept that. And then but if you can help it, you try to keep a return route in mind, kind of like a last ditch effort, kind of thing. And then but yeah, we were just in that spot, and then it was like the trail has to be here somewhere. It was very hard to find, and it I mean, even after we found it, it's still like for a little while it was like, man, I think this is the trail, but not 100%. And then like you were saying, then the trail just was like, it was overgrown at that point, and then it was
Yeah.
just grown. It
Yeah.
was like the yeah, it was literally walking through plants. Like we
Yeah.
were walking on the bushes,
Yeah.
and like through grass. Like I don't know, it was like grass or like weeds or something. And then that all caught us so off guard that we ended up like time was burning, and we're like, oh, it's starting to get like the sun's starting to go down.
Yeah,
We
we
got
were racing.
yeah, and so we were like running over bushes, not really running, but like we were
Yeah.
hurrying on top of bushes and all the way down, and then yeah, then we got down there, and I can't remember who said it. It might have been me too, but I was like, man, I'd rather just hitchhike like back. I know it's a long way to the road, but that was gonna be a monster to get back up.
Yeah, and
Going down was one thing, but going back up all that was gonna be hard.
yeah, so the hitchhiking part, I was down, and Sam was in favor because he did it on the PCT. When Lori found out that we were hitchhiking, she lost her mind. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm with a Marine sniper. I got Sam, who's he can take somebody, and then me. Like, there's three people. We're gonna be okay. Like, now people may not stop and pick us up because there's three of us,
Mm-hmm.
but and my only concern was where I couldn't remember where we would dump out at. So it's a 10-mile hike from the campsite to the highway. And if we dumped out before that turnoff where you would have traffic that would turn off to go to Van Horn, or you'd have traffic to go to the park, that would lessen our chances because you have two types of traffic. If we dumped out past that turnoff, then I knew like every car is going to be going past Guadalupe. They see
Mm-hmm.
three hikers, they're going to stop. And sure enough, after about 45 minutes, that guy stopped. And I
Yeah,
was so thankful.
yeah. The only issue was that most of the traffic was like trucks and
Yeah, the 18
you know,
wheelers.
yeah, and then families of like, there's a lot of people who are not just going to put three random dudes in their car.
And it was about an 8-mile hike back to Pine Springs off that highway. And like when you get around that kind of where Jose's grave is, the incline, it was almost worse than what we would have already done. And we
Yeah,
were low on water, so there was a whole bunch of stuff that was kind of playing against us.
yeah. I was pretty much positive we were going to get a ride.
Yeah.
The only thing that was I was worried about was that it was three of us, so that kind of would reduce the likelihood. That would make someone maybe a little more nervous to pick us all up.
Yeah.
But also, like we're clearly hikers.
Yeah.
I mean, we looked like a bunch of goofballs, dirty and like
Yeah.
weird as hikers do. We had like weird shirts and things on our heads.
Yeah.
And yeah. But
You know, and
and the
then
guy who picked us up had a pickup truck, so it was like perfect because I mean I wasn't gonna get in the back of something where he's like, get in here and lock it. I'll lock you
yeah.
guys in. Yeah, I'm not getting in that, but
No, and
I
he
just
wouldn't
jumped in the
like
bed with
when he dropped us off, I tried to give him like money and he's like, "No, man, y'all
yeah,
go
he
buy
was
a
just
beer or something." He was cool. And I
yeah.
think the best part of that trail is Shumar campsite was right next to William Creek Ranch House, and that was neat
Mhm.
to see that house there that was built in, the early 1900s, and it's still there, and the history behind it and stuff. So
Yeah. The
yeah,
early
that
1900s don't feel that long ago, but in that house, it's like, dude, that was ancient.
yeah, I mean the wallpaper is still there on the walls. It's
I mean,
coming off, but
the newspapers. Yeah.
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 The yeah, so I think out of my favorite hikes in the park, El Capitan for sure is in the top one or two. And then the next big hike we did is we hiked McKittrick Canyon Ridge Trail um,
Mm.
via Dog Canyon, and we
Yeah.
went up to the McKittrick campsite, and that was really cool.
Really nice
Um,
campsite.
huh?
It's a really nice campsite.
Yeah. No, it wasn't through Dog Canyon. It was through McKittrick Trailhead. We went up McKittrick Trailhead and then back down. Yeah, that was, and at that moment, I didn't realize that's probably the prettiest section in the park. When
Yeah.
you get up to the notch, and I always heard about the notch, but I'm, never really hiked up to the notch. And man, that was incredible.
Yeah. The notch was, I didn't see any of that coming. It's I'm glad it's not as well known, um, kind of maybe as it should be. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the more impressive things I've seen.
It's like I said in Sam's podcast that with the experience that you have and that Sam has, and then the all the beautiful things that you've seen in other states and New Mexico, California, Washington with Rainier, that I knew it was going to be something special because of course you guys got there way before I did because I'm the slow guy, I'm the old guy. And you both were kind of off to the side, and both of y'all were like, "Man, you have to see this." And and you let me experience that, kind of solo for my very first time to see it, and oh, it was spectacular.
Yeah, I think you might have misunderstood what I was saying because I think at that moment I was saying you have to see this because you technically have to walk past it. So you're technically going to have to see this.
No, I think you were saying it because it was so beautiful.
Maybe. But yeah, it was really, really cool. Super unexpected. It kind of reminded me of like the pictures I've seen of Vietnam, like the mountains out there because it's on the north side of everything of like
And
the
all
mountain
the
stuff. Yeah, so it's very a lot of moisture sticks around there, I guess. So yeah, that was definitely unexpected, and the trail up there is really cool too. Like as you get to the top of McKittrick Ridge, it definitely like becomes one of the more exposed trails in the park. Definitely like more like raw or bald rock kind of
yeah,
things. Like you have things like Bear Canyon, and I remember we went back to Bear Canyon significantly later, and I was like, McKittrick has to be like the most difficult, and you were saying no, Bear Canyon's definitely the most difficult trail, and that was true. So we went back up. I was like, oh yeah, that was quite a difficult one. But the top of McKittrick is something like you don't get a whole lot of in that park where it's like you feel kind of wind washed and exposed, and then you start taking it starts getting where you cross a couple sections that are like no fall zones and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool to do.
yeah, it's up there in one of my favorites. And also like when you get it to the top, there's a couple of little ridges that you get to walk, saddles that when you look at it from afar, you're like, oh man, there's going to be some exposure, but when you get there, it's no big deal. But it just feels neat,
Mhm.
to kind of experience that. And that coming back down, uh, I think you were a little irritated with me. So when we were hiking back down, and it's a safety tip, always stay together. And I don't know what happened, but like I was way ahead of you guys, and that's usually never happens. And I had my trekking poles on my backpack, and I went off trail accidentally and slipped, and I literally slipped and fell down on my butt, and I didn't realize I lost my trekking poles. And at that part of the trail, there is some exposure, like and I didn't, I just kind of slipped on the kind of the mud, fell, and really didn't go down too far. But I didn't realize my trekking poles were I left them there. And so, I just got up, found the trail, like, oh, okay, here it is, and kept hiking and didn't think about it. And then I stopped to get some water and realized I didn't have my trekking poles. And I was like, oh man, I'm not hiking all the way back up there to get them. I'll just buy some new ones. Your version of this, you thought I died. And I
Yeah.
didn't think about it like how you guys would, like I didn't even think that where the trekking poles would have been, could they have been on the trail? And like I didn't realize that they were at the spot where I slipped, where there was clearly skid marks from my foot, going off into the exposure direction. So why don't you kind of jump in and you're hiking, do, and then all of a sudden you see, you know, this possibly a tragic
Yeah,
scene.
this crime scene. Um, yeah, so we tend to like it was you, Sam, and I. So we tend to hike not far apart, but sight apart.
Yeah.
So like, we'll I tend to let Sam walk about like I can't even give it a measurement, but I'll like see him and then I'll start going, and then I'll wait a little bit and I'll make sure I wait a few seconds. Usually it's like 10 seconds or so, and then I'll see him, come around the last curve kind of thing, and then keep going. That's usually what we do.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I was following back down where you were, and I took a step and I was like, this isn't the trail. Um Someone's been here, but it's not the trail. And I kind of have like a hobby when I'm walking. I like to track if I can. If there's anything to kind of track on the trail, I like to
Oh,
kind of
we're
like
fixing to get in
follow
some tracking stories
footprints
next.
and all that. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, there's a lot going on right here. Like there was a slip. Like I could tell someone like broke through the bushes. And then it was pretty clear that like not there, that you couldn't really see the cliff, but like a little ahead there was a cliff. And it looked
Really?
like perhaps someone had pushed through the brush. So I wasn't like quite sure what all that was about. I looked back over my shoulder and I found the trail. So I just kind of like kept a mental note of that. Um, I started going down the trail, and I don't understand how you didn't find your own trekking poles, because that's kind of weird because they weren't where the slip was. They were like, so where the slip was, there was a cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they stayed on your pack and they were just kind of like loose after you
Yeah.
slipped there, and then they fell off one by one later. But so there was a slip, and then I knew there was a cliff, not a huge one, but a cliff, and then the trail went to the right from my perspective at that point, and then went back down under the cliff. So
Yeah.
I was going to crash back. So, anyways, so I walk, and then as we go down, turn back around, start going under the cliff where the slip was, and there's a trekking pole just like laying there on the trail, kind of up against the side, and I was like, man, did this trekking pole like did it come off like when he like went over this cliff? Because the way the cliff was situated, if you fell off that cliff, you either hit the trail or you went down another cliff, like a
Yeah.
full big boy cliff. And so I was like, there's a slip above me, roughly. I'm pretty sure. In my head, I was like calculating it. I was like, there's probably a slip right here. And then there's a trekking pole here. And then there's 500 feet on that side. So yeah, I was like, man, this is no bueno. And so I walk a little more, and I know you and your trekking poles. Like I never hiked with trekking poles. You actually got me to start hiking with trekking poles. So I was like, I know Jason's like got a strange fondness for his trekking poles, and I knew they were yours because you do all that tape and stuff. So
Yeah.
I picked it up, walked down the trail, and sure enough, I round a little bit farther, and there's another trekking pole that definitely. So the first one, the way it was laying, I was like, he might have just like forgot it here, like taking a breather,
Yeah.
just left it sitting up. The next one was like upside down, and like I was like, that one he didn't forget. That one fell, and so at that point, I was like, not sure, but I was kind of started thinking in the back of my mind, you might have gone off the cliff, like all the way. Like you were all the way down. And so I actually I have a little point on my GPS. I know where it is because I put it in I like to hike with Gaia.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned having 3. I have 1 Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only one I like. But yeah, so I just put that point in Gaia, and then I got to the notch, and because I was like, if you were that far ahead of me, you must stop at the notch because I haven't seen you in a while. So like this kind of sensible thing to do is stop at the next landmark.
Yeah.
And so I get to the notch, and I think actually before that I caught up with Sam, so I let Sam catch up to me,
Yeah.
and then we walked together to the notch, and I was like, if he's not at the notch, I'm going to start sweating because this is starting to get really creepy. And sure enough, you were not at the notch. And I was like, this is super not good, Sam. And he's like, yeah, this is super not good. We both don't like this at all. And then, we start, I'm like, we're going to go down a little ways. And we both decide, like, we're going to walk a little farther, try to find you. But we're going to have to start implementing like a protocol pretty soon because, yeah, we can't leave you dying in a bush. You know, it might be a matter of minutes kind of thing. It might come down to the wire. We don't know what condition you're in. Don't know what the hell's going on. That we can make best estimates. There's no way we could go down and investigate if you were where we thought you might be because, you know, that was a very gnarly cliff. And so we end up going, we're like, we're going to give it like a little more, just a little more, and then see if he's here because, you know, it's going to be a lot of work. Where we just started doing a lot of stuff. And so literally I was like, we're going to call out his name and try to find him one last time. And we start yelling your name. And then in the distance, like still, like at this point, you're still really far away. You're like, yeah, I'm right here. What? Like,
Yeah.
it's a big deal, guys. Why you keep yelling my name?
Yeah.
We're like, dude, wow. Yeah, that was a little much to I definitely think it's important to check in every every once in a while.
And I could tell when I got to the trailhead, and I probably was ahead maybe about 5 minutes. And then I saw Sam, and he's like, you know, we got your trekking poles. I'm like, oh, you found them. And then it dawned on me, like it just started like kind of sinking in. And then when I saw you, I could tell you were like frustrated. And you're like, here's your trekking poles. And then you know, like you were saying, like we thought you this and that. And you know, you said something like staying together, and I'm like, oh, okay, staying together. I go, just like yesterday when we were hiking up and you guys left me, that kind of staying together, or is there a different kind of staying together? But no, you're absolutely right. We should always, and that was even a safety tip. And that was Lori's safety tip. Always stay together. And even Sam was like, yeah, it's a good in practice, but no one, I mean, you know, a lot of people don't stay together.
Yeah, I think to that I would say I don't like to like walk in a group like shoulder to shoulder.
But like you said, check in. Like, you know, there should be kind of an unwritten rule that every so often you kind of just stop.
Yeah, kind of stop at landmarks. It becomes kind of natural. It's like every few minutes. You don't want to go too far because the thing is like if something happens, it might just be like a rock fell off something. and
Yeah.
just hit you, and you're out cold somewhere and you fell off something. Like there's a lot of things you can fall off out there, and it's not necessarily that you're going to die immediately or all this other crazy stuff. And I knew you had water to last a while, but you
Yeah.
might be in a really bad shape, and it might just come down to like those 5 minutes of like, can I put him between this rock and this rock?
Yeah.
And that's like that would be the crucial thing. It doesn't have to be super severe. I know you, like I said, you, Sam, and I tend to walk pretty far apart. Like
Yeah.
I see Sam in the distance kind of thing. And I have to
No.
wait like a minute for him to catch up. But yeah,
No.
definitely try to not go like 5 minutes ahead, maybe a
Yeah.
minute ahead.
Yeah. So that was lessons learned.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, so
and you're not wrong. On the way up, we kind of left you in the dust a little bit.
yeah, you left
That's
me in the
fair.
dust. But I expect that I'm the old guy, so no, and kind of as we're wrapping up the Guadalupe trips, this last trip we had two incidents that kind of like made me go like, geez. So we hiked up to the notch. We were taking Charlie was with us, my youngest. Snow, it was awesome. Got to see the notch and the cliffs and all that in a different perspective. And on the way down, these guys were hiking down and the dude was carrying an AR-15. For me, I am pro Second Amendment. Like, I don't care that someone has a gun or whatever. But that being in the national park and you're on a trail, in my mind, I was just, and maybe not at the time. Well, I think at the time I didn't even realize it was an AR-15. You guys had to say it. I thought it was a tripod for his camera because I wasn't really paying attention. I'm looking at the beauty of everything around me. But yeah, when you guys said that, he had a flashlight taped to it or stuck on the barrel, and I'm just like, in like now thinking about it, like, why in the hell are you having AR-15 at Guadalupe Mountains?
Uh, that I don't. Well, kind of feeds into the next one, but so for this, I don't really know. I don't personally hike with it. I mean, it seemed kind of like he was also they were kind of kitted out in all military style gear, so maybe it was just a thing that kind of like a
But he talked about like
see if it.
hearing scary sounds and stuff. Like nothing out there is gonna bother you. And if you do stumble across a mountain lion, the chances, like if you just did research mountain lion attacks, there's like one in the last 200 years. Yeah, like
Mhm.
it's that doesn't happen. And
Yeah,
I understand carrying a pistol. Like that. Yeah, carry, but like just from like a ultralight base weight, like
they
why
were not like they
no,
were
they
rolling
no, no,
very
no,
heavy.
no. Yeah, and so it just I mean, I'm not complaining about it or nothing. It just like you're on a snowy track, it's slippery, and
Yeah.
you're carrying not even like I don't even believe he was just carrying it with his hands. Like I don't think it was part of a strap,
I think he had
but
a I think he had a sling on it. He had it kind of in a carry position. I would. I mean, to me, I kind of get it because you want to have you feel more comfortable. Like anything that would happen out there, um, you'd have some sort of defense. I personally like to carry like a pistol just in
the
case.
pistol, I'm like, there's no like carry it. That I can understand logically, but like a rifle, like I just
Yeah, I
got
think
it.
some people just want to do it, want to experience like a long patrol type hike. Which I mean, yeah, I'm all for it. It's an interesting experience, by the way. Like
Yeah,
if you do carry a black rifle, like kind of on a long patrol with all that kind of they had military style backpacks and all of
yeah.
that stuff. I mean,
So very
and
uncomfortable.
it's very much not ultralight for one. Like the materials are completely different, and then it's very uncomfortable. Like that thing is just like poking you the whole time and
Yeah,
in the ribs and stuff. So I think some people I honestly had zero idea what was going through his head. Honestly, and probably in terms of self defense, I would say in terms of animals, I would say you're probably better off with a pistol, just in terms of like efficiency,
yeah,
because you can. I mean, just the sound. of a pistol for anything out there is going to drive it off. And there's obviously no grizzlies. Might run into a black bear. I don't think you want to shoot it, and I don't think it wants to come up to you. And I definitely would not shoot an animal in a national park unless it is literally killing you, because you're gonna pay for it. Like you may live, but they're not gonna let you have done that for free. Like
No.
they don't care.
Yeah. And you know, I'm not like saying like the guy's dumb or something for carrying a rifle. To me, it would just ruin your hike. Like, there's no need to carry a rifle at Guadalupe Mountain National Park. Now, if you were in Montana or something, or Alaska, yeah, maybe you would want to carry something. But yeah, anyway, it was just like overkill. The guy, you could tell, wasn't comfortable carrying it. It looked to be a burden, and I'm just like, you know, you're supposed to be out there enjoying it. You're on snow, you're on ice, you slip, the safety goes off. I don't know if it can. I mean, you would know more if it could actually go off. Like, it just, yeah,
not. But I mean, it's still not. It's to me, it wouldn't be the ideal way for myself to hike.
So that was kind of a weird experience. You know, I've only seen someone carrying a rifle on the Lone Star hiking trail, but he was literally carrying it with his hands.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people hunting out there when we go out there in hunting season, which is a little unnerving. Like, you know, they're not supposed to shoot over the trail, but the laws don't necessarily stop someone from doing something.
Yeah, and this wasn't hunting season. This was a guy that just wanted to practice his hiking from Stubblefield to Trailhead 6.
Yeah, maybe he was kind of LARPing or something. I don't know. I've personally done it with a shotgun with slugs when I was I've done a wilderness hike where I carried one because it was pretty treacherous country kind of thing. And then I think it kind of goes into the next guy.
Oh yeah, this will. All right, so let me set the mood. It's me, Henning, and Charlie. We're heading up Bear Canyon. To me, the hardest elevation gain of the park. It's 1.7 miles. We're about halfway up, and heading up the canyon, you can see the very top. And so I saw somebody heading down the trail. They were already off the top part, and they were on the trail heading down, and they were wearing all black. So I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to run into these people, you know, or this person here pretty soon. So we start hiking and hiking and hiking, rest, hike, rest, hike, rest. And we never run into this person. And then it was kind of weird, and I didn't pay too much attention about it. And then we get to well, you guys were already at the top. And I don't know if you had already seen the guy, but as I was getting to the top, I saw him, and he was probably about 30 yards to the right of you in these bushes. And I can't remember what he was doing, but startled me, and I yelled out to you, even though I was right at you, Henning, there's that guy that I saw. And when I said that, I'm guessing he jumped out of the bushes onto the trail and started heading towards us. And he wouldn't make eye contact, and he wasn't dressed for the weather. He didn't have the gear for the weather, and he wasn't making eye contact. He was looking down and off to the right as he passed us. And I don't even know if he even said anything. It was very awkward. And he didn't even he had like boots that were flat. Like, his trail wasn't like any kind of like tread. It was just kind of like a flat boot trail. Mm-hmm. And so he passed us, and then we all kind of looked at each other like, wow, that's weird. And you said, and it's funny because a second ago you said you like to track. So you said, hey, I'm going to track and see where this guy went. And so you start following his tracks, and then the next thing I know, you turn to me, and because this is a kid-friendly show, I'm going to put it into normal like nice terms. You said, if the guy comes back, don't let him get next to you, because there's no reason why he should be coming back to us. And you went from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. And so now, like, you can kind of jump in to see to kind of describe what you saw and kind of like what made you react, like,
Yeah,
to watch out for this guy.
yeah, there was a couple things. The first thing was, like you said, I like, or like I said, I guess I like to track just what I see if I can find something. And so one thing I found was this pair of boots going up. And I mean, early in the hike, I was like, these are not the right type of boots for this. I mean, we were walking up snow and ice the whole way, and I could see that this was like a kind of like a work boot, but not even like a treaded work boot. It was like one of the ones that they were Ariats, what they ended
Yeah.
up being. And I was kind of, it was kind of funny, cracked me up, because the first print I saw, I was like, this looks like a pair of Ariats. Like, why is someone going up in these? I was like, they must either. I remember thinking, I was like, they either really know what they're doing or they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
And but the thing was, there was two pairs of tracks going up, and that was the thing that keyed me in. And I was talking to Charlie about it too as we were going up. I was like, this is kind of weird. Anyways, we get up there, and and then, like you said, you saw this guy on the trail, and I remember you calling out that you saw someone up there, and I kept expecting to see him, because I was anticipating kind of checking out his boots and being like, "Are you the guy in the Ariats?" Kind of.
Yeah.
And then we get to the top and never see him, and that was weird, because you were like, he's coming down, but then we never passed him, so that was kind of weird. And then like you said, you kind of like called him out. I didn't see him at that point. He came back around, and he was acting super weird, like really making the hair on the back of your neck stand up weird. And then he had, so he didn't have the right gear at all. He had like an Adidas duffel bag and two like JanSport backpacks.
Yeah.
And watch enough crazy shows on Netflix, you're like, man, I have no idea what's in those bags. Like, probably nothing good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then as we were standing there, I tried to be fairly normal as he was walking by. I definitely wanted to like look him in the eyes and see where its head's at and stuff, but I was trying to like not like alert him at that point, so I just kind of let him walk by. And but I was also looking at the ground, and there was, at that point, I was like, there's one set of tracks here.
Yeah.
So I kept trying to, I knew there was two going up, but then all of a sudden there was one. So I was trying to like look at if there was signs of a scuffle or anything. Anyways, then like you said, basically it was like, watch our backs, make sure that like if he comes back, there's
Don't let him get next to you.
Yeah, don't let him get near you, because I feel
But you
like
said it. You said it in other words.
Yeah, it was more of like I kind of went back to.
The positive of this is, you said watch my back. So like, okay, I literally was watching your back, and then you turned and looked at me and you go, watch the other direction. And I'm like, oh, you don't want me to literally watch your back? You want me to watch the other direction? Okay, I got you. We're aligned.
Yeah, we got it all figured out.
Yeah. And you could see where when you followed his tracks, and Charlie and I were behind you, and Charlie was really flipped out because, like, it was new for him, but you followed the tracks, and you saw where he entered and exited the trail, and you could tell like he jumped. You could, like you could clearly see that he jumped, and his tracks in this one section were like way deeper than the other ones, and where he kind of jumped, where he, started the jump and ended. And it ended up being that, we discovered he had, there was a tent, there was like trash, there was water bottles. He had all this stuff where he was at that I guess he just dumped. And then you start thinking, okay, there was two tracks, did he like kill somebody? Did he, and going through their stuff and then just left it? Like, you start going through kind of all these scenarios. So yeah, it was a sketch situation.
Yeah,
and we had cell service, and you were able to call the ranger and tell him, and that we were going to pack up all this stuff and carry it down. But yeah,
Yeah, I
that
think
was
so it just ended up being a bunch of trash up there. We ended up finding the other prints, they appeared to not have gone up together. So they're going off in a different way. And maybe, it's still very questionable why he was there. I mean, clearly he just like bought some water and tent and stuff at Walmart, and because it was the Walmart brand stuff, that
yeah.
outdoor, which is, by the way, just for the record, they make some good stuff. So if you're,
Not if you're going to
water
be in
bottles and all that,
Guadalupe weather.
yeah, but the tent, not that tent. The tent was not for where he was. Also, he like set it up in the worst spot ever. It was like the windiest place you could be up there. So he was totally unprepared. No telling what all that was about.
Yeah.
But we ended up just packing up all the trash because it was going to blow away all over the place. So we brought it all down. But that kind of reminds me of, like, not to go on like a crazy tangent, but like the people out there is probably the 99.999% of them you run into are going to be the coolest people. But people are people. So
Yeah, I would much rather be afraid of out there the two-legged animals instead of the four-legged.
yeah, and it kind of goes back to, like, I feel like with hiking, in general, and people going out and doing all this stuff is like, just remember to be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of out there. The part of why you do it is to, um, be on your own, and people are sometimes super lame. And I had an experience in Washington one time, a totally weird one. It was very different, but we did Rainier in 2020. So like COVID was kicking on, and my buddy fell, dislocated his shoulder, had it put in, and had like a
Jeez.
sling. He's going down. This happened on the glacier. On I can't remember the route. It's the opposite side of the Disappointment Cleaver, or the DC route. So, anyways, you just go up this giant glacier. It's kind of a snowy glacier, but anyways, he did that, and on the way down, he's burning hot because he's still in all his warming layers, and he's trying to get his jacket off, and he can't get it off with one arm, and he finally comes across some people, and he's like, "Can you help me take my jacket off?" And they had masks on, and they just walked past him, like avoided him, like kept like 6 foot distance,
Oh,
and
jeez.
he was like, "Please, like, my arm is out of socket, like, help me," and they wouldn't help him. And it's like, yeah, dude, you're gonna run into all sorts of weird stuff out there.
Yeah. For sure.
And animals, yeah, like, you run into bears out there, or you can run into people that won't help you, or you can run into people with weird bags. Yeah, elk, moose. There's a lot of stuff out there. It just happened.
Yeah, that's just funny that this last trip, we had both of those incidents that that was my 18th time to be out at Guadalupe Mountains, and never had anything ever kind of sketch happen. And then we had one trip, and it's like bam, bam. But hey, I think it's important, and it's like you said, and it's like in the episode before this, and the hiker safety is, we should always prepare for the unexpected.
Hmm.
You know. All right. So as we start to kind of wrap this up, I think we kind of to answered some of these next questions. I don't know if we said what's your favorite Texas trail and why.
Probably McKittrick Canyon.
McKittrick Canyon.
I would say it's just, yeah, it's a really, really cool trail.
Okay, and then I think maybe we talked about you mentioned this, but what is at a Texas hikes and backpacking trips, what has been your toughest one?
Quad,
Quad. Yeah.
far and away.
Yeah. All right, and then you actually requested this little change in the podcast, and it's, usually I try to end the podcast with like, kind of like what would be your advice for a safety tip for any new hikers and backpackers. But you brought up a really good point that we should also, like, what piece of gear would you recommend to any kind of a new hiker or backpacker? Um,
Yeah. I brought it up also because I forgot this piece of gear. And then I was like, wow, um, how versatile it is.
yeah.
How much I
So,
would enjoy having it right now.
and I had mine, and I just never brought it. I should have. I think the last part of the hike, I let you borrow it.
Yeah, I borrowed it. So the piece of gear, my favorite is a buff, like a simple buff, not
Yeah,
the thick one. Yeah, not the one meant for winter, but
yeah,
just the regular one, because you can wear it in the desert and you can wear it in winter. Like if you're out at night and it's 10 degrees and it's whipping wind, it's amazing how much difference it is just to pull your buff over your nose,
yep.
like on a glacier, than to just have your bare skin exposed. And it's so thin.
Mm-hmm.
But also in the desert, my favorite hiking, kind of like, uh, what is that called? Like not the fashion, but my get up I wear
Yeah,
is the buff in the hat. Like I like to wear a hat, and then I have my buff pulled up where it keeps the sun off me, so I don't have to wear a sunscreen all over
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
So it's a way to compromise on that, because uh, I don't like to have that oily sunscreen all over myself. But it keeps the sun off you. It can keep you cool. It can keep you warm. It can keep your skin from feeling the wind. Like even if it's warm or slightly warm, like wind just gets really annoying. So
yeah. I
yeah, a
mean, like you
buff.
can hold a hot pot. You can blow your
Hmm.
nose. You can. I mean, like it's you. Can,
I
that
wouldn't blow
piece of
my nose.
gear is well, you could. That
You
piece of
could.
gear is the most versatile piece of gear, and I don't know that I would disagree that for any new hiker backpacker that they would definitely have. There would be a benefit for them to invest in a buff for sure.
Yeah, and on the back of the packaging, it shows you like the 20 different ways you can wear it. And I literally like have worn it all 20 ways, like the ninja mask and everything.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
awesome. And the
yeah.
other
You
thing is like when you layer, like you have like the basic layer conditions, like you have like, and they roughly come out to like, like let's say like 60 degrees, 50 degrees, 40 degrees, 30 degrees. Like like I'll put on a fleece here, and put on a fleece and shell, and put on a puffy and fleece, and put on a puffy and shell kind of thing. You can do that. But then you have like the intermediate layers where like a buff really helps. Like it's
yeah,
like, oh, it's 65 degrees and not 63 degrees. Well, I like to pull my buff up kind of over my, or I like to pull my buff down around my neck, or put it on my head. I always wear mine like a tube just on my head.
yeah.
That's always a great temperature.
All right. So the buff is your piece of gear. Now, what is one piece of safety advice that you would give to a new hiker or backpacker?
Uh,
And you
hope for
can't
the
say stay together because we
Yeah.
don't do that.
No, I'd be lying. I'd be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I always do is hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
So,
Like, how
and
far do you think you have to take that? Because let's say if you're hiking on the Lone Star hiking trail, like I prepare, like if I get bit by a snake, because there's snakes out there, so how far do you think that they need to be like preparing for the worst? Like just, like, I mean, because you could like really get crazy with it
yeah, you can take
or,
it really far. I kind of cut it at like a medical kit.
yeah,
So, and like if you're going, like I don't even bring like really bandages or anything. I used to bring more like gauze. Like honestly, if you wanted to have a medical kit for if something went really crazy, I would just wear a belt, and that way you can make a tourniquet, and then or bring a tourniquet if you want, but that's kind of unnecessary and not really the best thing to put on. So definitely don't go to the tourniquet first. And then just gauze and like something to keep the gauze in, because if you get hurt there, all you're trying to do is stem the bleeding, stop the bleeding, or get the breathing started and get the person out.
Yeah.
Like all you want to do is you're not there. You're not going to fix them. You're not going to bring a stretcher and pull them out. You're not. I've been on trips with like skeds and all that where we could technically have dragged someone out and technically had to drag uh, people at some point, but you you're you're going to hunker down. If something happens, you want to just stop in place, get help,
Yeah.
get like people, if they'll come in with helicopters and all that, it'll be very embarrassing and whatever, but you're going to be out alive kind of thing. So in that regard, and it was so then you also measure it like snakes, like in the Lone Star, on the Lone Star hiking trail, it's like like snakes are a pretty big thing. So you might want to carry something. I personally don't. I just keep an eye out for snakes and really hope I don't get bit.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, the biggest thing is, how are you going to hunker down? Like you're not going to go fishing. They'll go. You can get the kits, and it has like fishing hooks and all this other stuff in it. You're probably not going to need any of that. If you have some duct tape to slap over a deep cut,
Yeah.
if you have some gauze to pack in there, it doesn't have to be a lot, though. It takes a lot of gauze to pack a wound, but just something to stop bleeding, not the stuff that cakes in, not the coagulate stuff, because that stuff really, like, they have to cut it out, so it'll destroy it'll make a huge wound kind of thing. But yeah, so the bigger thing is you're going to stop potentially. You don't know how long you're going to be out there. And I'm not saying you're going to be out there for years, but what I'm saying is you're planning on going for a few hours. You might be a couple days. So, and on a couple days, you're fine. You don't really need to eat or drink that much. You don't need to eat. Like, don't worry about food so much, but food very
Extra
much
water and warming
yeah.
layers, and
Always bring more water than you think you're going to drink. You should come back with like probably a full liter in hand. And then you bring a little extra food, a little more food than you think you're going to eat. But the biggest thing is bring a flashlight. Always. You go out there for the morning, bring a flashlight.
Or headlamp.
That's what I mean. Sorry, headlamp. Don't bring the hand flashlight. Bring a headlamp. Always have a headlamp. It doesn't weigh much. Just throw it in your bag. You just put it in the lid. Doesn't matter. Just leave it in there. Always bring your shell.
That's important.
Yeah. Your shell layer is huge. Like even when it's really cold outside, technically you can get away with just wearing a fleece and a shell down to like 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And you'll be totally comfortable, even in like pretty gnarly wind, especially if you have shell bottoms on. Like if you basically have like a Gore-Tex rain kit on and a fleece, like you're gonna be warm. So bring your basic layers, unless it's obviously not going to get freezing. But if it's like cold, always bring your shell. Always bring your puffy. Always bring your midweight. Like just the basic ones. You don't have to go too crazy, but they don't weigh a whole lot. You could hike with them through hike, so you might as well hike with them for a day hike.
Yeah, and that happens to me. Like I always like I don't need my puffy, or I don't need my shell, and then I'm stuck somewhere like, oh man, I should have brought my puffy, or I should have brought my shell. And on the Lone Star hiking trail, like just a sun shirt, like just throw it. I started packing that. I may have just a short sleeve shirt on, but I'll put my long sleeve sun shirt in because, there's some sections, there's no tree cover and it gets pretty miserable, like to have that sun beating down on you.
Could I throw another one in there for the Texas people? Because specifically because this is a Texas podcast, and I think this is the biggest error I see in Texas is cotton kills.
Oh, don't. Yeah. Don't
you and
ever
him,
wear cotton.
yeah, I know these were
Ever.
two platitudes, but
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, cotton, don't wear it. Like I don't even wear cotton underwear anymore. I used to.
No,
You can get
you
away with
should.
cotton underwear, uh, but yeah, cotton will not keep you warm, especially when it starts getting cold. Um, you stand no chance. You will. It's the worst fabric you can wear. Oh, I know this. I know the stuff at REI is expensive, but it's kind of expensive mostly for a reason. Um,
Because it's going to protect you.
yeah,
Yeah, cotton is. If you're going to the clubs, you want to wear cotton, wear cotton. If you're going to go out to eat, wear cotton. But if you're going outdoors for any kind of activity, do not wear cotton ever.
yeah. Get some smart wool socks.
Yep.
And they don't have to be huge. They don't have to be the giant thick ones. You can. I wear the little like running ones
Yep.
down to
Me
like
too.
20 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I greatly appreciate for the gear and safety advice and your time. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look at, you know, if I need to split this up into two, because we're on 2 hours. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I knew that when we got together, we would definitely have a long one because we tons and tons of wonderful adventures together. So again, um, thank you for your service. And guess what, listeners? Guess whose birthday it is on Monday?
Mm,
Henning.
that's fun.
And we're celebrating it tomorrow at the climbing gym.
Yeah. No balloons, I hope.
Uh, maybe. Maybe balloons, cupcakes. Who knows? No, thanks again, Henning. I know we talked about doing this, and I'm glad that we finally worked it out and got this done. Thanks again for the time. And to the listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. As always, thanks for listening.